May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and joining us now to talk more about the supports that are in place for our kids is Brooke Lawson. She's a mental health and school counseling coordinator for the Hamilton Southeastern Schools. That's a mouthful. Hi, Brooke.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, you were so welcome. Excited to talk to you. Tell us a little bit about some of the mental health supports that are in place at HSE schools, specifically for kids and perhaps the students and staff, or the teachers and staff as well.
Sure. Well, so I started in the district in 2016. It was a result of the referendum. And through conversations around the referendum, teachers, staff, parents, we're all sharing that, we were seeing an increase in the need for mental health supports in our schools. And so some of the referendum money was set aside to really address those needs and make sure that we had the services and supports in schools for our students. So in 2016, we entered into a contract with Community Health Network. So they're the mental health providers in HSE schools, and we have a mental health provider in every single one of our schools that sees students throughout the school day. So they're able to work with students at school. They're able to really talk to teachers and support teachers in making sure that they feel comfortable and confident in how to support a student that might be struggling. And then they also work with those students' families and provide therapy and counseling services to them as well.
We were talking earlier, and you said this is actually suicide prevention is actually a lesson at the 8th grade level for kids. So, I mean, you get real with them fast.
Yep. Yeah. And we know, when kids are struggling, they don't typically come to adults first, right? Especially adolescents. They often are talking to their friends. And so we think it's really important that we're having conversations with our students about, what are the risk factors and warning signs that someone might be displaying who's thinking about suicide? And what do I do if one of my friends tells me that? And I think, one of the things a lot of times kids will tell each other is like, don't tell anybody that I'm struggling with this. And we want our students to know, like, you need to tell us. We have supports in place. We want to help. And so, when I first started in the district, we have a really specific procedure that we follow when a student's expressing suicidal ideation. And we kind of firmed that up a little bit. And we were talking a lot to our staff and our students about suicide prevention. And we did see an increase and the number of students who were expressing suicidal ideation. But over the past couple of years, that number has decreased. But we've seen an increase in the number of students receiving mental health therapy in schools. And so we're hopeful, and we need to continue to see that number trend in the same direction. But we're hopeful that we're getting supports in place before students are struggling so much that they're considering taking their lives.
And we were talking earlier, too, it does seem that this generation of kids understands that mental health is something we all have to take care of. In fact, a student came to you and asked if he could make a club around this.
Yeah, so just a couple weeks after I started my job in HSE, I got an email from, I think he was a junior at the time, and he said, my principal said that I want to start a mental health club, and he said you might be able to help me. And so that turned into our first student mental health club. It was called Stigma Free HSE at HSE High School. And since then, both our high schools have these student clubs, and we're actually now connected to a national organization called Bring Change to Mind. They're really based out of the West Coast. But our two high schools were two of the first high schools in the state to have Bring Change to Mind clubs. And so Glenn Close actually is the founder of Bring Change to Mind. And so we're excited because it offers us more opportunities. But our students really feel that their role is to educate their peers and their community about the importance of taking care of your mental health, to be a resource for students that are struggling, and just really continue having conversations about mental health and mental health awareness.
Hamilton Southeastern Schools just recently received $85,000 grant from United Way of Central Indiana, specifically for mental health, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's the plan for that?
So we're really excited. It's a short-term grant. So the grant ends September of 2021. And so it's really to help support the mental health needs of our staff and students as we transition into the 2021-2022 school year. And so we've got a couple of different plans for the grant. We're offering some training for our counselors. over the next couple of weeks of some really great group programming that will help support students in increasing their motivation and building resilience. And so that's one of the things we're planning to do. We also are allowing each of our schools to really examine what their student population needs. And so we're offering grant opportunities where they can apply for a grant of up to $2,000 to do things like offering services over the summer or having a big back to school party where there's some opportunities for kids to get into the building and feel a little more comfortable in returning to school.
Yeah, I would think that maybe the pandemic throws another hurdle in there for the kids, especially those who haven't been in the classroom for over a year. How are we prepared to handle this moving into next fall?
Yeah. Well, and we, every year our students transition a lot in Hamilton Southeastern schools. So they go from elementary to intermediate, and then they're there for 2 years, and then intermediate to junior high, and they're there for 2 years, and then to high school. And so we always put plans in place to help support those transitions. But this year we're hoping to do some more things like offering times where kids can come in and see the building and walk around. In fact, we surveyed our parents a couple of weeks ago, just asking them what kinds of supports do they think their children need to be successful? And one of the number one thing was like reorienting to the school building, because we know there's some kids who haven't been here since March of 2020. And so we want to make sure that kids feel confident and comfortable being back in the buildings and feel like they have a place where they belong, because we're excited to have them all back.
Well, we know that kids will talk to kids about their problems, but sometimes they don't feel real comfortable going to an adult, right? We talked about the don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
So what if you're a parent, you're concerned about your kiddo's mental health? Who can you reach out to? What supports are there for the parents?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, as a parent, number one, you could have a conversation first with your child, right? And letting them know what you've noticed and what's concerning you. But also our school counselors are excellent resources in our school buildings. If you ever have a concern about the social, emotional, or mental health of your child, our counselors are definitely a really great person to reach out to, have a conversation with, and they can connect families to the right support. So our counselors are really that connection point for students to our mental health therapists in the building. So starting with the school counselor would definitely be a great first step.
Okay, so you guys have a big event, an annual event that you didn't get to have last year coming up on Friday. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so our student clubs partner with the City of Fishers, the Parks Department, to host an annual event called Hope for Happiness. And it really is a fully led student event. So the students named the event, they really decide what we're going to do, what the focus is. And this year the focus is on rebuilding connections. And so we've invited different vendors, different organizations to be at the event. It's at Brooks School Park from 6 to 8 on Friday. And we'll have food trucks, we'll have community organizations that promote mental wellness, we'll have some student clubs that promote connection and belonging there. And so we're just excited to, it feels like we're at a point where we're starting to get back out into the community and connect with one another. And we're excited to provide that opportunity, as well as an opportunity to talk about the importance of mental health.
Fantastic. Well, good luck with that. Brooke Lawson, Mental Health and School Counseling Coordinator for Hamilton Southeastern Schools. I got it. Thank you for taking the time with us today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.